Hello, today is the 25th of August, 2024. This is Hector Vladimir. In this episode of Living Off the Grid, I would like to focus once again on the electric or power company, your friendly yet corrupt and abusive electric power company. And most people, I believe, believe that their power company is mostly honest, mostly a straightforward and truth-telling corporation or company, mostly a company that it is trustworthy. Mostly, I believe people draw a parallel between their power usage, their electricity service, and the high reliability, for the most part, the high reliability of their electricity, which they again draw a parallel between that and the reliability or trustworthiness of the company that provides it. And this is a false parallel, I believe. Many utility electric power companies are, I believe, untrustworthy, deceiving in many occasions are corrupt, in many occasions are abusive, in many occasions take advantage of situations, are power grabbing, monopolistic, and very territorial, and care primarily about their profits, their bottom line, their growth, and not the customer's well-being, happiness, or even treating the customer fairly and keeping the customer happy and satisfied. That is very low on their priorities. Again, their first and foremost priority being making money, and they will stop at nearly nothing to reach that end of making money. Not only that, but also growing their ability to make money and their ability to make not only money but profits. You should and must know the difference between making money or having a company be afloat, be viable, be in business, and a company making profits. That is the big difference between a non-profit organization, which is, in many cases, a company, a corporation. You could be a non-profit corporation and do very well, grow in everything, and pay your employees and your management and your leadership quite well, such as the Goodwill Corporation. It is a non-profit corporation, yet it pays its CEO millions of dollars, last time I heard. On the other hand, on the other extreme, you have for-profit corporations where the profit making is just seemingly virtually unlimited, and the practices in which they engage to make profits and keep making profits almost non-stop many times are corrupt, shady, questionable, and many times are also unethical, meaning they take advantage purposely of loopholes, legal loopholes, and do anything and everything they can as long as they believe is quote-unquote legal. And many times legal is not always ethical, it's not always in the interest of the customer, and it is often abusive. And the power company is no exception, has no exception to that. They are, again, mostly for-profit corporation. To my knowledge, I don't believe there are many of them that are non-profit. There may be a few. I'm yet to run into one or learn about one. So just to list a few of the corruption cases that are quite publicized, and that have made it through the many barriers to make those public. Because make no mistake, these power companies are, again, powerful entities that control many of the narratives about them, around them, of them. Very much control politicians, control news agencies or corporations, companies, control newspapers, control magazines, control reports. They pay out very good amount of money to all kinds of people in positions of power, positions of influence that may expose them. They make sure that these people in those positions are well aware that they should not publish anything that would put them in a bad light, whether it's with money, whether it's with threats, other kinds of legal threats or actions, etc. So one of the examples I want to bring up is a very egregious one of the most egregious ones up front first. And it is a case that millions of customers were swindled out of about 16 billion with a B dollars during, I believe it was the early 2021, the winter of that year. I believe it was around February when Texas got hit with a severe winter storm, one that broke all kinds of records and that basically killed and knocked out power to millions of Texas residents. Because of a winter storm, many areas froze up, a lot of the equipment was put out of service, even a lot of the alternative energy equipment such as wind generation equipment, which Texas has a lot of them. A quite large percentage of the Texas grid is supported by wind energy, believe it or not, solar energy. And the Texas grid, again, as I've mentioned, is quite independent or separate, isolated from the rest of the nation's utility grids, where it cannot easily share or intake power from any other grid or electric network in the nation. And the consequence of this was that it was overwhelmed. People wanted to weather the storm and keep their homes warm, heated. And of course, these corporations, these electric companies, they want you to spend power. So the population was very much ignorant and unaware of how to save energy during a winter storm, both so they can save money and two, so that they do not overwhelm the system. But of course, they were utterly ignorant. Information to save energy was likely not shared. They very much have the power to share all kinds of information about how to save energy and keep costs down, both for the customer and the company, but they don't. They keep those tips and information that they sometimes have, they keep it under the rug, more or less, so to speak. They keep it in the back sides of their utility bills, in fine print, in their websites that no one ever visits, etc. So the public was not aware how to save energy, how to prevent a catastrophe from happening, meaning the power just going out altogether for days and even weeks on end. And this is what occurred during that time. And lo and behold, being a for-profit set of corporations, it was, I believe, more than one. I believe the company name was Epcor, the one in the center of this outrageous occurrence. And again, the customer base for that company, perhaps other companies in Texas, were charged an exuberant amount for their energy during the crisis. Even as the power was out, they were charged, apparently, and when the power came back on, they were charged at an extremely high rate. And this was done on purpose. This was done to make money, not only to recover the money or the costs that would be incurred to fix the grid, but also to make profits, to make windfall profits for the company, to grow the company, to use the crisis, the catastrophe, to make millions and millions, in this case billions of dollars. So the company overcharged $16 billion. $16 billion. This is well reported and well recorded during that time. And lo and behold, later on, when the public noticed this, and it was a public record, and this was found out, and the company was asked to correct this and give this money back, because it was obviously not necessary to keep the rates at an extreme height, extremely high, for days and days after the crisis had passed. When the company was asked for that money back, it refused. It basically threw up a wall and crossed its arms, negating and denying that refund that was due to the public. And they gave very ridiculous and childish reasons, including that they don't want to pick winners and losers, something of that effect. And that was that. And they were allowed to keep that money. Basically, they were allowed to steal money. They were allowed to steal money. And then they were allowed afterwards to keep the money that they had stolen. They were allowed afterwards to keep the money that they had stolen. To the tune of $16 billion. $16 billion. So that was one of the largest electric utility companies in Texas that got away with basically highway robbery to the tune of, again, $16 billion. So that'll tell you how trustworthy many of these electric companies are. Also in Florida Power and Lights, their main electric company there in many areas of Florida, was caught paying companies to fund fake candidates to defeat those candidates that are friendly to alternative energy such as solar, wind, etc. And this again was done, of course, using ratepayers, as they call them, which are electric company customers. Ratepayer money, because where else is that money going to come from? The electric company makes their money from ratepayers, makes their profits from ratepayers, and pay out their dividends out of the money that they get from ratepayers, or many times also from taxpayers, which is money that comes from the state government and sometimes the federal government. And those governments make or get their money from taxes. It's not like they create them out of thin air and give it to the power company. No, they get it from taxpayers. Taxpayers fund governments. So Florida Power and Light, FPL, through the help of politicians such as Ron DeSantis and his cohorts allowed this to happen, allowed the electric company to fund fake candidates so they can basically defeat those candidates that are pro-renewable energy. That's your rate hikes that go to fund these projects, these nefarious and corrupt projects and programs where they have plenty of money to give to candidates and to give to politicians and even commission members, utility commission members, so they can get away with just about anything they want to get away with. Another case is in Georgia. In 2011, a class action lawsuit sued Georgia Power for artificially raising municipal franchise fees, which is a dubious and nefarious fee that I've been paying for years. That's on my electric bill and every other Georgia Power customer's electric bill. You have to pay a franchise fee for whatever reason. And this scheme swindled Georgia Power customers out of millions of dollars. And the company was sued in 2011 through a class action suit for the same reason. So don't be fooled and don't think for a second that electric companies are this straight, standing, and trustworthy companies that would never steal your money or pay out bribes or be corrupt in any other way or perform schemes to cheat customers out of money. Don't think that for a second, because these cases prove otherwise. Beg to differ. Coming back to Texas, the company, Texas New Mexico Electric, is fined by the Public Utility Commission, or the PUC, for $1.7 million. It's a slap in the hand kind of fine that the electric company has in its back pocket all the time. But it is refreshing to see that the PUC actually took action against an electric company one time, perhaps among the many, many other times that it has gotten away with all kinds of stuff, all kinds of corruption issues and outright stealing. So the company got fined that $1.7 million amount for failing to upgrade its electric meters because they only worked with the 3G network. It was something about them being faulty because of the cellular network that they worked with, and this caused a ton of overcharges, thousands upon thousands of overcharges that occurred over a long period of time. It doesn't say specifically here on my notes what that time period was, but it was presumably quite long, and the company looked for all kinds of excuses and pretexts not to upgrade their meters. Of course, these are, again, for-profit corporations, and they will shirk all kinds of responsibilities that would require them to spend money, funds many times that they are provided not only by their ratepayers, but also provided in part by governments, states and federal governments, and sometimes city governments. But yet these companies, even when they are provided with these funds, they attempt at all costs to keep much or all of these funds in their pockets so they can pay out themselves, their CEOs, their stockholders, their top management employees, etc. Pay themselves big bonuses, give themselves raises and all kinds of lavish gifts. And it says here that this overcharge occurred to over 100,000 customers.
Over 100,000 customers.
This is just one case out of perhaps many, many thousands of cases that go unreported or underreported, or that never make it to court, that never make it to any kind of solution. So again, don't think for a minute that your power company is this righteous entity that would never lie or commit any kind of fraud. There are many, many other cases which I probably will bring up in a later occasion, but I want to now name a few facts, little known facts about electric companies that many of us don't know, that are ignorant about, either because they're just not publicized enough, not taught in any kind of setting, whether it's schools, whether it's through the media, news reports, etc. These things many times are just kept under sheets, under the rug, under the table. They are suppressed many times. Again, my most suppressed videos and chats, recordings are about electric company corruption. The subject is very much suppressed by the social media platforms and the online video platforms. So electric companies are able to charge customers high rates just for not having their entire home run on electric. How about that, folks? Your electric company can charge you a higher rate just because you don't have your entire home, meaning all of your appliances running on electric. So you're punished for having a variety of power sources, for having diversity when it comes to your power sources. Of course, electric energy is not the most efficient energy for all of your appliances. I've said that many times in the past. Any heat-producing device ran on electric is going to kill you financially, and it's just not efficient. Running those on a gas, such as natural gas or liquid propane, is much more efficient and cheaper. And why should you be punished for not having all electric appliances? I mean, that is just nonsensical. Yet it is allowed by the power company to do this, basically to discourage anyone from having appliances that are non-electric. Another fact is that electric companies in many areas are allowed to estimate your utility bill for up to 3 months, perhaps more. And they have often been caught estimating utility bills well over 3 months. These are cases that have occurred again and again. This is something that may change depending on your state, and that has changed a lot now with the smart meters, which give electric companies many times a live feed or a live reading of your electric use. So that may be going away, but a lot of electric companies still depend on the analog reads or meters, which need to be read by an actual person. And these companies are many times allowed to estimate your use and just charge you in that estimate. Then you have to pay whatever estimates they tack on you. Whatever they think that you may have used that month, that's how much they make you pay or get your power disconnected. And they can do this for months on end. And when it comes time to adjust these estimates, it gets all confused, it gets all jumbled, because they have to go back and estimate some more, because once they get the person to go read your meter finally 4, 5, 6 months after, they have to basically get that actual reading and then distribute it among whatever months that they didn't read your meter, and it gets all confused, jumbled up. And how they give you the credits is usually not cash money like you need, or many people need. Most people need their cash to do other things with, not credits. They sometimes, I believe most times, give you just credits on your power bill, and you're basically robbed of that money that you could have used elsewhere. Especially nowadays that it is time critical to have funds and money for rent, for groceries, for all kinds of payments. Having your money as energy credits is not helpful for many other things that most people have to pay for. Another fact is that many electric companies charge customers that produce energy through solar panels at a higher rate than those that don't. And this is another outrageous, nonsensical, stupid, and corrupt action and thing that electric companies are allowed to get away with. They're allowed to charge higher rates for people trying to save the environment, trying to be efficient, trying to use less energy, trying to help everyone else out and themselves, because you prevent catastrophes such as the one that occurred in Texas in 2021. You are taking off load from the energy grid by having solar panels. You should be rewarded, but yet these companies punish this action and basically discourage it by having you on a higher rate. Again, nonsensical, stupid, and anti-progress, anti-renewable energies, anti-forward thinking. It is a truncated, antiquated, and a obsolete mindset that these companies have, only looking out, again, for themselves. Number one, the corporation. Number one, their profits. And just to wrap up this show, or this episode of Living Off the Grid, is another case of corruption that was quite popular, and it is the one from the electric company called First Energy of Ohio. And this company not only operates in Ohio, as many companies do. They are conglomerates, they are multi-state corporations. This company, First Energy, was caught on a bribery scheme that bailed out many of their failing power plants, and to also fight against the renewable energy industry. So they used money that they got from the utility commission through, I would suppose, through all kinds of rate hikes and taxpayers' money, funds that was funneled to them, channeled to them through bribery, basically buying out politicians, people in positions of power, most likely PUC or Public Utility Commission members, buying them out so they can pass laws, regulations, and approve all kinds of rate hikes and other monies for the electric company. And this was basically caught by the public found out by the public, brought to court, and they were found guilty.
Guilty.
They even issued an apology. And again, this is probably one of the more egregious cases upon many thousands and thousands of other cases that are less known, or sometimes not even reported, sometimes not even found out, or not even charged or challenged. So don't think for a second that your power company is trustworthy, can't do no wrong, can't do no lies, can't tell lies, can't be trusted, or can't be involved in any kind of corruption or scheme, bribery, or other kinds of corrupt schemes, because it happens all the time. It has occurred many, many times before, and it is occurring as I speak, and it will keep occurring. So we have to be vigilant. We have to watch our power companies like you watch someone that you suspect of being a thief, and you have to basically watch what you're paying them, the charges that you're being charged, that you're being made to pay them. Question those. And also protect yourself, meaning save energy. Not only save energy, but also keep track of the energy that you do use from the electric company, if any, so that you're not overcharged, so that you are taking action to lower your energy use. I am happy to announce that I have lowered my energy bills significantly for this month of July. It was from July 15th to August 15th, which is my billing cycle. And I took drastic action to lower my energy bill. I learned a lot more about the energy hikes, the energy costs, what time of day the energy is more costly. And I also learned about some few tricks to help me save on the energy I use. Yes, it was a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of concessions I had to make, a lot of keeping up with my electric use, a lot of control and discipline. I did not use power during what they call peak hours of 2 p.m. and 7 p.m., hardly any power, because that's when the power is most expensive. I hardly used my air conditioning, which is the biggest power consumer in the house, so that was a big help. And I continued to not use electric heat for cooking, baking, oven, any of that stuff. That stuff stayed shut off. And again, I staggered my power use, didn't use many appliances all at once. That's just going to raise the cost of using power. One last thing I wanted to bring on that point is that some companies, not all of them, but some companies charge you a penalty for using a lot of energy or a lot of current. Basically, if you use a lot of appliances all at once, they incur a charge for that. If you are using, for example, a few appliances all at once during a certain period of the day, every company may have slightly different hours, slightly different rates, slightly different factors for that. So you have to really look at what your power company's requirements and factors are applicable. If they have that surcharge or penalty for using a lot of power, you have to also find out about that and ensure that you don't use a lot of appliances. I would say not more than one high energy consuming appliance at any one time. For example, if you have an electric range, you don't want to be running that and cooking while you're using your dryer at the same time. That's just going to kill you with that penalty charge that some companies have. I don't believe that applies to me in my case with my electric company, but I have found out that it does apply to many customers throughout the nation, throughout the country and the world. So find out about that through your electric company by going to their website, giving them a call, or going through their documentation, or to the Public Utility Commission websites for your state. Thank you very much. Hope to hear about your experiences with your electric company in the comments. Thanks.